All right, let's get right into it. We're going to pull back the curtain on the world of cannabis manufacturing, and I think you'll be surprised at just how complex and tightly regulated the whole journey from plant to product really is.
I mean, have you ever really thought about it? How does a plant become a perfectly dosed gummy? It's not just some simple mixing and packing. No way. It's this whole journey that's controlled by some incredibly strict rules and, honestly, a ton of scientific precision.
So if you've got this image in your head of some kind of laid-back kitchen setup, you can just go ahead and throw that right out the window. The reality? It's much, much closer to a pharmaceutical lab. Think clean rooms, lab coats, a place where every single step is documented, standardized, and put under a microscope. So to really get a handle on this world, we've got to start with the rulebook. And when I say rulebook, I'm not talking about a couple of helpful suggestions. This is a massive manual of mandatory protocols that basically dictates everything that happens inside those walls.
And the absolute foundation of that rulebook is something called the Standard Operating Procedure, or SOP. Just think of it like the ultimate playbook. I mean, it has detailed instructions for literally every action. How to clean your workspace, there's an SOP for that. How to create an extract, SOP. You name it, there's a procedure written down for it.
Okay, then on top of that, you've got what's called Good Manufacturing Practices, or GMP. Now this is what I find really interesting. These are the exact same standards you'd see in the pharmaceutical industry or big food production plants. It's all about making sure the building, the machines, the people, everything is up to a professional standard to make products that are safe and consistent every single time.
And believe it or not, it doesn't even stop there. You've got another layer of rules from the National Fire Protection Association, the NFPA. This is super important because some of the ways they extract compounds use flammable stuff. So the NFPA comes in with fire codes that control everything from the building's ventilation to how you store chemicals. It's all about keeping the workers and the whole neighborhood safe.
All right, so we've got the rulebook down. Now let's actually follow the plant on its journey as it gets transformed from a flower into a finished product. And the big word you need to know here is conversion. See, you can't just take raw cannabis flower and stuff it into a vape pen or bake it into a brownie. It doesn't work like that. It has to be processed first or converted into a form they can actually use. And this right here is where that insane level of tracking really kicks in. So let's take pre-rolls, for example. How does this work? Well, an operator goes into the state-mandated computer system, they select a huge batch of flour, and they click Convert. Then they have to type in the exact amount they're about to use. From that very first step, every single gram is being digitally tracked and accounted for. Nothing slips through. And for something like edibles, it gets even more detailed. The operator picks a potent extract, they digitally deduct the precise amount they're using, and then, get this, they have to enter the exact number of gummies or chocolates they made from it. Say 1,000 gummies. They even have to weigh and record any waste left over. This is all to guarantee that every single edible has a consistent and verifiable dose. It's all about precision. All of this leads us to what is maybe the single most important rule in this entire industry: absolute traceability. When I say nothing gets lost in the system, I mean nothing. Think about this. From the second a seed goes into the ground, all the way until you see it on a shelf in a dispensary, every little bit of that plant is tracked by a state-run system. You'll hear this called seed-to-sale tracking. It's this digital trail that follows the product everywhere, and it's all designed to make sure nothing gets sold on the black market and that everyone is held accountable. So how on earth do they manage all this? Well, this is just brilliant. Products aren't just given fun, catchy names. Nope, they're given a systematic name, a kind of code. If you look at this example, you'll see the name itself tells you everything: the product type, the brand, the strain, even the weight. It's like its own secret language for keeping perfect track of inventory. But what's the point of all this tracking and precision, right? Well, it would all be for nothing if you didn't have intense quality control and security to back it all up. Before a single product can be sold, the whole batch has to go to an independent lab for a whole battery of tests. And they're checking for everything. Are the THC and CBD levels accurate? Is there any mold or bacteria? What about leftover chemicals from the extraction process? Pesticides? They even do an inspection for things like hair or bits of dirt. It is a super thorough process, and it's 100% focused on keeping the consumer safe. And the security? Just as intense. All the finished products get a tamper-evident seal, so you can tell if anyone's opened it. And then they're locked away in a serious high-security vault, We're talking solid steel doors, reinforced concrete walls. This is way more Fort Knox than your average supply closet.
Okay, but what happens when something doesn't go right? I mean, what if a badge fails a test or just expires on the shelf? Well, you can bet there's a super detailed, documented process for that, too.
So, what do they do? You can't just throw this stuff in the dumpster out back. The rules for getting rid of it are just as strict as the rules for making it. And that leads to this. Well, it's a fascinating and very controlled procedure. First off, the whole thing is recorded on video, every time. It starts by officially scheduling the destruction in that same state tracking system. Then they have to physically destroy the products. So, they're tearing open packages, crushing vape cartridges, whatever it takes. And finally, the actual cannabis material gets mixed with some other stuff to make it totally unusable. And then it's thrown out in a secure disposal unit.
And get this. This one detail just shows you how seriously they take this. The official procedures, the SOPs, actually tell them to mix the cannabis waste with things like kitty litter, bleach, and even blue dye. Why? The goal is simple. Make it so gross and so unrecognizable that there is zero chance anyone would ever want to consume it.
So, let's recap. We've talked about the SOPs, the GMPs, the seed-to-sale tracking, all that intense lab testing, and yeah, even the kitty litter. So I'll ask you this. The next time you see a cannabis product, what are you going to picture? A simple kitchen or the super regulated scientific clean room where it was really made?